The lights of Houston shine brightly, but in hip-hop, it's the shadows that reveal the true narrative. 50 Cent, a man who rose from nothing to build his empire, was about to discover just how deep those shadows run. The city, which had initially embraced him, was starting to reveal a darker side linked to street codes, power struggles, and unspoken rules. 50 Cent was not the type to simply conform, which made him a target. The pressing question everyone was asking: why did 50 Cent leave Houston, and what really happened in the city that was meant to be his new home? Let's rewind a bit. Is there a protocol for checking in? According to 50 Cent, the answer is a firm no. In an interview, he made his stance clear. I start with myself, and then he can represent his era, and they can manage theirs, but I've never been about that. 50 has always taken a straightforward, no-nonsense approach to street life. He doesn't believe in submitting or adhering to rules he never agreed to. So when he arrived in Houston, a city dominated by Jay Prince and his renowned Rap-A-Lot records, the concept of checking in felt excessive. Hello everyone, welcome to Celebrity Cookies. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment your thoughts about the video. I hope to see you in our next cookies. For those who might not know, checking in refers to a practice where artists, particularly those from outside, are expected to show respect to local power figures in exchange for protection. Some see it as a sign of respect, while others view it as an extortion tactic cloaked in street politics. For 50, this was not something he was willing to consider. He had his own team and network, and he didn't require anyone else's approval to operate. However, this attitude didn't sit well with everyone. When 50 Cent arrived in Houston, he wasn't just visiting, he intended to make a significant impact. He had ambitious plans for the city, establishing a G-Unit film studio, investing in local initiatives, and supporting the community. He wasn't merely passing through, he was building something substantial. However, he didn't check in with Jay Prince or any other local figures, which sent shockwaves through the streets. For 50, this was more than just business, it was about power. He was making moves that could bring millions to the city, but his failure to adhere to the customary check-in was perceived as a slight against the local power structure. You could argue that 50 Cent was making a bold statement. But in the realm of street politics, such statements often come with repercussions. It didn't take long for rumors to spread. People began to suggest that 50 wasn't merely facing disapproving looks. He was confronting something far more perilous, a setup. That's when 50 started to allude to the underlying issues at play. He wasn't just being overlooked, he was being targeted. In a series of enigmatic posts and interviews, 50 Cent dropped subtle yet important hints about what he believed was unfolding. He mentioned silent enemies and shady moves, indicating that he was piecing together connections between Jay Prince, the legacy of Supreme McGriff, and those who were quietly orchestrating events behind the scenes. It became evident that there was more at stake than just a few hurt feelings over a check-in. The situation was much more serious. Then came the significant name drop. 50 Cent referenced discussions involving Jay Prince's crew and Supreme McGriff's son, who had inherited the weighty legacy of his father's name. Rumors began to circulate that these individuals, along with some dubious characters, might be scheming something more nefarious, a potential setup targeting 50 Cent directly. Things got even more complicated with the involvement of Rick Ross, the rival rapper with whom 50 Cent had a long-standing feud. Their conflict had been public for years, marked by insults, lawsuits, and personal attacks. However, when Ross was seen associating with people linked to Supreme's camp, it was clear to 50 that this was no coincidence. It was a strategic partnership. This alliance seemed to signal the start of a plot to undermine 50 Cent. For 50, this move was more than just an affront, it was a warning. Having endured too much to let this go unchecked, he retaliated. He called out Ross, highlighting the obvious connection with individuals tied to the man who had previously tried to eliminate him. But Ross wasn't the only one making moves. Supreme's son, McGriff Jr., also spoke out on social media, mocking 50 for disrespecting Irv Gotti, a former close associate of Supreme. Yet, 50 Cent did not retreat. Instead, he embraced the escalating tension, sending messages that suggested he was fully aware of the unfolding situation. He hinted at a brewing setup, with everything pointing to the strategic maneuvers of Jay Prince's camp and the McGriffs. The discussions were not merely about street loyalty, They revolved around control. Control of the narrative, the city, and the influential players in the game. The more one explores J. Prince's background, the clearer it becomes that he is not just a music industry mogul. He has deep connections to street life, with roots tracing back to the late 1980s. J. Prince's name is associated with serious allegations of drug trafficking, organized crime, and ties to some of the most powerful figures in the game, including Larry Hoover, the infamous founder of the Gangster Disciples. This level of influence extends far beyond the music industry. It pertains to real-world power. And that's precisely why 50 Cent was reluctant to engage in the game. He lacked faith in the system, particularly regarding those who operated behind the scenes. It was evident that J. Prince and his associates were not merely focused on business. They were also concerned about their own legacy, and 50, having built his own empire, was perceived as a threat to that. The story took a surprising turn when 50 quietly departed from Houston. Despite all the excitement and promises of creating a new future in the city, he decided to withdraw. The film studio and community initiatives, all of it vanished. He left without a public farewell. His reason? He felt that Houston did not welcome him as he had hoped. It was more than just business. It was about a deeper connection that he felt was lacking. While he continued to receive accolades in some circles, including a day of recognition from the mayor of Houston, J. Prince remained silent. The tension was palpable. Houston had given 50 the keys to the city, but they also made it clear that those keys came at a high cost. Reflecting on the events, it's evident that 50 Cent didn't merely leave Houston. He departed because he recognized that the game he was entering was far more perilous than he had expected. The setup, the alliances, the subtle pressures, it all became overwhelming. So, 50 did what he has always done when the pressure rises. He walked away. However, this isn't the end for him. His story in Houston, with J. Prince, or with Supreme Son, is just beginning. And if you know anything about 50 Cent, you understand that he becomes most dangerous when cornered. What his next move will be remains to be seen. What began as a simple inquiry about checking in has evolved into something much larger. It's a narrative about power, legacy, loyalty, and survival. In the ever-changing landscape of hip-hop, the final chapter has yet to be written. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation, so please share your opinions in the comments. Checking in has evolved into something much larger. It's a narrative about power, legacy, loyalty, and survival. In the ever-changing landscape of hip-hop, the final chapter has yet to be written. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation, so please share your opinions in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on this story.